What's up everybody, I'm EJ, and welcome to my video essay, where we're going to be discussing music remixes, samples, and IP, and basically everything that comes along with it. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So imagine you're a small songwriter, and you decide to put out one of your songs, but this big record company hears it and decides to steal bits and pieces of your song, and decides to make a whole new song. Well, this actually happened with the case of Jarvis Boyd versus A&M Records. This case consisted of the plaintiff, which is Jarvis, taking legal action against the defendants, A&M Records, for stealing phrases of his song. Basically, the case consisted of Jarvis just claiming copyright infringement and violation of the New York law against A&M Records, in which he had every right to do so because it was his song or whatever. And even though when it came to this case, Jarvis didn't have all the way proper, what you call it, he didn't have all the way proper justification for the song, so he didn't have the proper like paperwork for it. But since the phrases used in the A&M record were so similar to Jarvis's, the judge gave Jarvis priority over the song and rights. And yeah, I also have a credible source to back this up, whatever. So let's get into that. My credible source that I decided to go along with this court case is called Strike the Right Chord. Basically, with this credible source, it backs up the importance of knowing remixing policies and understanding the ins and outs of remixing songs. It also explains the safest way to avoid any legal trouble when it comes to remixing songs, and that is getting the song cleared by the original artist before using the actual song. And that leads me into my next topic, which is sampling music. So let's get into that. The case of Newton versus Diamond is the perfect case to explain sampling, because it consists of the owner of the musical composition bringing a copyright infringement against a band that had included short segments of the composition in its own recording. This case ended in the granting of the defendant motion for summary judgment and the denying of the plaintiff motion for summary judgment. So basically with this case, it kind of didn't go as planned for the plaintiff. They thought that they was going to, prevail when it came to getting payment for the use of their song or their musical composition, but it didn't work out like that. So yeah, that didn't really go as they planned. They ended up losing, and the defendant ended up getting granted a summary judgment, basically. So yeah, but I do have a credible source to back this up. When it comes to this case, basically, is the title kind of says it perfectly, or whatever. And the title of it is How to Get Away with Copyright Infringement, or whatever. And I feel like anybody who makes music or something like that, they should definitely look into this source, because it perfectly coincides with basically dealing with music and sampling. So I feel like it worked perfectly with the case that I brought up, because they both kind of coincide basically kind of together. So they kind of play hand in hand. It's kind of like a loophole basically for any song maker or something like this, a loophole for them to not get in trouble or get like copyrighted or whatever. But this case talks about a loophole in copyright, which is the Copyright Act of 1976, that appeals to the transformative social second uses and music sampling. Often seems to be an appropriate example of such use. For anyone that makes music, definitely look into this source, because this source will provide you, just like I said earlier, a loophole to not getting copyrighted, and it just fits perfectly. With that being said, let's move on to my next case for the video, which is Sony Music Entertainment, the plaintiff, versus Does 1-40, the defendants. In this case, Sony brought infringement actions against unidentified defendants who allegedly downloaded and distributed copyrighted songs from the internet. Defendants moved to squash the subpoena served on the non-party internet server service providers seeking to obtain defendants' identities. A credible source that supports this case is the impact of intellectual property on Nevada live music scene. This source highlights the fact that artists are now leveraging their intellectual property to generate income. Things like copyrights and trademarks are types of intellectual property that music artists have in their recordings. So basically, the way how these two things kind of coincide, the case and then the source, basically, because they both kind of talk about IPs, like the intellectual property or whatever, and how artists kind of have that now. And in the case of Sony or whatever, they want to take action against the unidentified defendants. But in that case, things didn't go as they planned. I think they were denied motion with that case. So yeah, basically kind of with that or whatever. So these two cases, well, not cases, these two entities definitely coincide and have meaning when it comes to the intellectual property. And yeah, so with that being said, I have a special guest for this video essay that wants to talk to you guys and tell you more about this one last case. Check it out. Today we're going to be going over the civil case with Rock River Communications Incorporated, the plaintiffs, versus the Universal Music Group, the defendants. So let's discuss what happened. So in October 2007, the defendant sent a cease and desist letter to several distributors of the plaintiff recordings, including some of the internet-based distributors, asserting that they had exclusive rights to the recordings, and they even threatened copyright infringement, which resulted in the plaintiff's distributors to stop distributing some of the plaintiff's recordings. After this, things got pretty heated between the two groups, I can imagine, which led to them finding out in court. In the end, once everything was all said and done, which everybody had said what they had to say in court, giving their facts and their opinions on everything, just about what everything that happened, the court still ruled in favor of Rock River, and the group was awarded its costs on appeal. My case proves that how important it is to understand how sampling music and remixes work, because if you fail to understand the ins and outs of how it works, you put yourself at risk of being sued or even losing the rights to your own music. That's exactly how like my case and my topic kind of correlate, because it's just all about like making sure that everything is on the up and up when it comes to like owning your music and different stuff like that. Just like having documentation, basically. Alrighty, thank you guys so much for watching, and see you next time, maybe for the next video essay. So, alright. So yeah, this case did not change my topic's field of law because they both pertain to the same thing, which is entertainment. Because in the world of law, music and media is recognized as entertainment, and it deals with the rights and royalties of media, music, and art. My topic field of law really didn't change because it just kind of falls up under that entertainment law bracket or whatever. So yeah, that's it for EJ's case study video. The case itself concerns the licensing rights for several early musical recordings for former artist Bob Marley and Wailers. When the music was recorded in 1960, record keeping was not a major concern. The absence of legal documentation has caused confusions on which entities own the licensing rights for the recording. So yeah, basically they were kind of just arguing about that. Basically, who really owned the music, who really didn't. So yeah, the two groups went back and forth on bringing up facts to one up the other in court. For example, the Universal Music Group made sure to bring up facts that the plaintiff lacked documentation.